Okay, you are back. You have joined. Turn out the lights. Get to your quiet place. Then call. Join the seance.
Hi, my name is Candy.
I knew that, dearie. I was told. We made love in Mauritania once. I was a swan. Let me guess. Of course, it's not a real guess. It's forces beyond our comprehension speaking through me. But let me guess. You're a Virgo this time, right?
No, a Gemini.
That's what they told you. I know. But you have Virgo rising.
No, actually, I think I had Libra rising.
I know, but I'm not looking at simplistic, superficial astrology. Pfft, anyone can do that. I'm looking deeper into the cosmos, behind Libra, tucked away next to the neutron star. To the left of Virgo, too, was the Virgin. It was also rising. And it is this conflict between the scales, the twins, and the dreaded Virgin and the tax collector. It is this conflict that is tearing you apart. This is why sometimes you feel deep melancholy and heart-piercing grief, and why you seek solace in strangers, right? I bet you did not know that.
No, I thought it was because I had a troubled childhood.
Of course you did. Your parents did not understand you. How could they, Candy?
They tried, but I was...
They were aliens. And you're an alien hunter who had her memory wiped, and you keep having a dream where an alien fetus crawls out of your stomach and poops. Only you can't remember it. That's the whole point. I'm speaking to the cosmos right now. Hello? Hello? It is telling me everything is going to be okay. As long as you buy and read my book very carefully. Will you do that?
Sure.
But wait. Nothing. Rather than waste decades into training and meditating to speak to the other side, you can now take a shortcut right out of your online bank account. Hold on. It's telling me something. It's telling your luck will change if you spread knowledge. Buy 20 copies of my book. It's a clear message I'm getting from the depths of a different dimension. Will you do that? I'm sorry. We must have a bad connection. Interference with the spirit world happens. Are you ready to descend into the realms of Hades? I was there this morning. I have studied everything. Greece, Cyprus, Lipari, ancient religions, chaotic pasts, sex magic where you strangle the person afterwards. Fantastic! It answers really important questions. The number is 212-360-2367. Hello, line 4. You have 5 minutes. The meter is running.
Yeah, Beatrix Fontaine? Tell me why I should have to pay for advice. It's insulting. If you've got a gift, you should share it for free.
My. You've become quite a little firebrand since running that tavern in Krakow 500 years ago.
Really? Wait, tell me.
Yes, you're in the tavern. It is in Krakow. Yes, I am seeing it happen. You're wiping the bar with a rag and... Do you remember a fat man?
I don't know.
You and the fat man are having an argument in the tavern. Oh no! A woman leaves quickly, shouting. I'm seeing it very vividly as if it were happening right in front of me. He's screaming. You're screaming. I hate you. I hate you. It's in Polish, but the spirit world has translated it for me. Have you ever hated someone?
Yeah.
I knew this like the hand of my back. You have loved someone you hated. You have conflicting feelings. Oh no. You are holding the man in a headlock. You are enraged.
Fucking A! Am I gonna kill him?
You are about to smash his head on the bar.
Awesome! What next?
Now you are holding his head in your hands. Now you are kissing him.
What?
Yes, you are kissing him with the tongue now. He is grabbing your long hair, shoving his tongue deep inside your mouth. You are really enjoying this. The passion is exploding. Your hand is reaching for his groin.
Oh, God! No way! No fucking way!
The abyss does not lie. Now he has his hand down your trousers. You are very engorged. You have done this before. You know it is wrong, but you cannot help yourself.
Oh my God, no!
Oh yes. You are about to take it from the big man now. Ugh.
Welcome, welcome, everyone. Hey there, ladies and gents. Welcome to Almanac Paranormal Season 2, Podcast 23. Hope you all had a wonderful Thursday. Please, everyone, make yourself at home. And if you have any questions for our special guest, don't be shy because questions are always welcome here. Every one of you means so much to me, and you are all very important to this channel. So I do like to welcome everyone. I like to greet everyone by name. So if I haven't greeted you immediately, I promise I will get to you. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to us and don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notifications when we go live. And lastly, if you like what we're doing, give us a like. It would be most appreciated. So now let's get this show on the road and let me introduce our guest. Philip Cercusa was born and raised on Staten Island, New York, in a household of 8. Throughout Phil's career, he has owned several fitness centers and slowly moved into the sales communication industry. Phil is also known for the infamous Haunted Horsefly Chronicles in Easton, Pennsylvania, and is a host on the Horsefly Chronicles radio with his wife Julia. They have 4 boys together, and he is also a proud grandfather. Philip's been to heaven, having a near death experience in 1981 when he had a severe reaction to nitrous oxide at a visit to the dentist's office. Because of his experience, he has become a spiritual advisor helping others restore their faith. He can be found on all social media sites. So let's welcome our guest, Philip. Hi
Hi,
there, welcome.
thank you for having me.
Oh, most definitely. I'm very excited about doing this interview. So I just want to take a quick time and just say hello to Christina. Hey. So my first question is, um, and I want to kind of start at the beginning. If I understand things correctly, you had some paranormal experiences at a young age.
Yes, so I grew up in a household of 8, like you said in the introduction, and Staten Island, New York. And I remember seeing shadows at like teenage years, and those shadows later on started to hear. I started to hear voices coming through.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that from my experience and what I deal with in the Horsefly Chronicles home, and also being a host and interviewing other people around the world, that a lot of it starts through adolescence with a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as if the spirit world knows that we're a lighthouse
Mm-hmm.
and we're receptive to communication, whether it's through the corner of the eye, the mind's eye,
Mm-hmm.
or audible coming through, and you're hearing whispers and voices that come from absolutely nowhere. And that just seems to be the case with a lot of people and myself as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you use the term lighthouse because that's how my husband, who he does not believe in heaven and hell, God or devil or anything like that. He's very skeptical, and that's how he kind of explained me living in his city. He's from Rotterdam, and his city was bombed 3 times. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. Um, and I just want to welcome, hello, Selena. So, as a teenager, you kind of went down um, a dark path. Would you mind sharing a little bit of what led you down that dark path?
So hearing voices and seeing shadows, I wanted to see, and I was curious if it was psychosomatic. Now, this is we're going back to the early 80s. And I got a couple friends together and we did a Ouija board.
Mm-hmm.
Huge mistake, huge. And we were just messing around. It's just the board, but it's not just the board. It's the intention that I had to try to make that communication. And I did with other friends. And Once that door is opened all the way between the physical realm and the spiritual realm, it's kind of like they threw out the fishing line to me and reeled me in a sense where they wanted me to communicate back, right? Because I'm seeing shadows, I'm hearing voices, but I don't know how to communicate, and I don't know if it's just my mind.
Right.
So then they bring out a curiosity within us. And the Ouija board was the curiosity to see if I can make contact. And unfortunately, we don't know who we're speaking to sometimes using that. And that was the wind up. And you never know that there just might be something negative that comes through on the board. And they will disguise themselves at first as children. And that kind of reels you in more because you think you're talking to a child or someone who was murdered at a young age, and they're playing innocence. And I will tell you that entities, demonic entities, whether you believe or you don't believe, these things know how to manipulate the mind. They know what we're going to do before we do it. They know our intentions. And once you have, and you are on that belief system, they kind of got you. Now, it's funny that you said that your husband doesn't believe in heaven and hell and all that stuff, because I met a lot of people like that. And I bring that up because when I talk to those people, even through radio interviews myself, they're not as affected sometimes as a person with attachments or a person who is very sensitive to picking up vibrations from the other side. And I give a perfect example of that. If you have a builder and he has to do work in a home and you hired him, he doesn't know that the home is haunted. He doesn't believe. He doesn't care. He's there to do a job and get money, right? Well, you send him in to do the job, and 90% of the time, nothing happens to the builder because he doesn't believe it anyway. He didn't understand it. He didn't even care to hear about it, right?
Right.
Now, if you take another builder and they're sensitive and they have abilities, they're affected. So then it comes down to our belief system. And the spiritual world knows our belief, our intent. And, sometimes I tell people maybe it's better off not believing because believing makes it so much more true that they can come and affect you within the physical realm.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with you. This I like how you worded that. That's very interesting. So, and we'll touch on this a little bit later into the story, but can you tell us about Sarah and how eventually you found out she wasn't who she claimed to be?
Yes, yeah. So in the early 90s, at my mom's home in Staten Island, New York, it was me, my oldest sister, a couple of friends, and we were doing the Ouija board. Now, I'm going to say this. I was a hardcore skeptic. I didn't believe half the things I seen or heard. I just didn't. I always wanted proof. I'm a guy, I want facts and I want proof. If I'm not going to sleep at night, I want proof that this thing is existing, right? So the spirit comes through the board and she goes, "My name is Sarah." And she's saying that she can see us. And my sister has abilities, I believe, because when she was touching the plaquette, it was moving in directions that I couldn't move it psychosomatically, or the way it was spelling out certain words. So I says to Sarah, who said she was a young girl, I says, if you're really here, I want you to prove it. And I asked her to do something in the home, and she went upstairs to my mom's room and she went in the top drawer. Now, this is Sarah. As we're down on the Ouija board, she's telling us what she's doing. And she says, I put a napkin over hairbrush in your mom's top drawer. So we all ran up there about 5 minutes later. And quite frankly, there was a napkin over a hairbrush. Okay, so now it's either you say, well, someone's playing a trick on us, right? One of the friends, or it's a fact. And then she goes, I have something else to tell you. I want you to go outside because there's a big rock that your mom kicked up when she was driving and it's holding the muffler down. and it's dangerous. So we went outside, and lo and behold, there's a rock holding the muffler down. It was a little red Hyundai. And now it's raising my curiosity that this is not made up. This is an actual girl watching us, seeing what we're doing. And her words were, I can see you, I can hear you, I can touch you, I can feel you. I'm always around and I'm here to stay. The here to stay part scared me because I didn't know what that meant. Now, Sarah was a very powerful spirit. Throughout the years, I've had many, many friends in Staten Island and Brooklyn, and we'd do the Ouija board and we would communicate with her. And I remember there were times I would blindfold certain friends and I wouldn't even touch the planchette, and I would ask questions to Sarah and she would give me accurate answers, which were virtually impossible. So now here comes the proof of the other side. She became sort of a strong attachment to myself and a mentor, because she could tell me things that were going to happen in my life, whether it's a month down the road or a year down the road. And as time went on, I found myself, again, we talk about the dark side. I was communicating with her through a form of mental telepathy, a form of doing the board myself. I wasn't really good at doing the Ouija board myself, but I was able to communicate with her. And also candles, a lot of candle work I was getting into, because she was able to do things like make the candles go out on certain questions, like they would blow out.
Wow.
And I had an altar set up in my bedroom, which was kind of scary at the time, now that I think about it. But I was pulled in. You see, when you're pulled into that world and you don't really know, because now you're getting empowered by the spirit. And it feels good in one sense, because it's like, wait a second, I could do things with this spirit and get answers that other people can't do. And again, we're going back now. So this would be the mid 90s, right? And still on television, there may be a few shows like Sightings or anything, but nothing to the spark of communication with the other side at 100%. That was really out there. James Van Prague was out there, and I found him very interesting. And John Edwards, he was starting to arrive. But dealing with it by myself and communicating with the spirit, and the spirit communicates with my friends and gives us warnings. She's now a protector. She's now built my trust and my curiosity, and it became a daily thing of speaking with her. And I found myself slowly getting into the world of rituals. And I remember going to this place in Manhattan. It was called Magical Child. It was owned by Herman Slater, who was believed to be a practitioner or Wiccan. And he was a very powerful man. The store was set up pretty creepy. Like, they had everything between every kind of incense to the books of black magic to, it was just a store that had every single thing. And I was drawn to this one book. And in my mind, I hear Sarah's voice, and she says, get it. And the book was around $500. And it was the book of Goetia. And I didn't know much about this book, but it was behind a glass case that was locked, and they wouldn't sell me the book. I really wanted the book. I got the book. Took a lot, but I got the book. And I could tell you that, and the listener out there, that again, it's hard to believe some of this stuff. It goes with intention. I don't recommend anyone touching that book, looking at that book, or even reading that book, because certain books like that one were so powerful that I found myself reading these enchanted lines, and Sarah's voice would come through the subconscious. And now I felt like I could do things. And the things I was doing, some were not really good. And unfortunately, you know, they created more negative energy within my life and other people's lives. For example, I was at that age, I was a bouncer in New York, and I remember I had a problem with a couple of people, and I tried the book. And I remember just doing crazy things like getting 2 Matchbox cars and making them crash, but thinking of those people that were crossing me over, only to find that a few days later in Brooklyn, it happened. And I says, maybe it's coincidence. You see, that's how it works, right?
Right.
If it feeds you in, it feeds you in, right? I'm being casted in now. And then I tried more rituals. Not that everyone worked, but the ones with the strong intention of people that crossed me, unfortunately, worked in mysterious ways, which led me to this empowerment of you can't touch me because I can do this type of work. I am not a Satanist. I am not a person who believed in this stuff. But they know, the other side always knows. You know, we talk about good and evil, and whatever your belief is, if evil finds a weak link within a person's soul, they will cast you in and they will use your weakest link for their bidding. Evil things don't like peace and harmony and love within the physical realm. They like death, torture, pain, destructive things. And when you're pulled in so far, like I was, you don't really realize what's happening to you up until a point of either you have to come to realization somehow and break out of it. It's a spell.
Yeah.
It's a casted spell within one's humanity of the physical realm, and you're in a fog. And in the fog, you don't really know right from wrong of, is this really happening, or is it coincidence? Is it true? Is it false? And I began teaching another friend of mine about the book at that time, and because he got crossed over by someone, and ironically, now I'm starting to have a little team, and it worked, but in unfortunate ways. So I tell this because this is a lesson that we have to learn. Be careful with what you tamper with. Be careful with what you wish for. Because sometimes when you go too far into that world, whether you believe or you don't believe now, it can pull you into a direction you may not get out of.
Absolutely. That's very interesting. Let me just take a quick moment and welcome Frank. Hello. And welcome Janine. Hello. So, at one point, I know you weren't involved with the mob, but you did help them out. Do you mind to share just a little?
Sure. I worked in a bar that was owned by a certain family. And when you work for the mob in any kind of way, whether they own a restaurant or a bar, they have to know everything about you.
Yeah.
Everything, your roots, everything. It's a trust thing. You're working in my location. I got to make sure I can trust you. So I used to tell them about my stories with the Ouija board and stuff like that. And there was a guy who was well known, and he killed an FBI officer in Staten Island, New York. And this family I worked for at the bar had to find him, wanted to find him, because if he was caught, he could take down a lot of people. So I made a suggestion that I can try and communicate, and see if we're able to. And I got to tell you this, there are gangsters, mobsters that are involved with this stuff. It's kind of weird, but it goes back to the roots of maybe Santa Maria and Italy. And there are a lot of performing arts where the other side in organized crime, they will try to get information. And this was one of those times, because I remember the gangster's son was doing the Ouija board with me. And when he was doing the board, there were people coming through that the family had murdered. And he's battling with them on the Ouija board. Not that I'm touching this thing anymore, the plaquette. I took my hands off, and he's arguing with them. And it was really something to see. It was crazy. I was just kept shaking my head. Is it real? Is it fake? And then the guy goes, put your hands back on. I need to know where this person is. And they gave us information where this guy was hiding out in Brooklyn. And about a week later, he met his other side in a very bad way. Now, again, this is bad stuff. This is evil stuff. This is negative stuff. And that's what the other side, the negative entities wanted. They create this negative energy. They pull more people in. And when they do that, negative energy gets stronger and becomes a hold within the person, because that's what they do. And unfortunately, like the wind-up wasn't very well. I had a hard time understanding that for a long time. Was it real or coincidence? Only to today that I could look back at, all these years later and say that so many things are no longer coincidence. These things are actual factual. That be careful, because these things will tell you things that you may not want to know, or you may strike another person, and that's just what they want. And that leads me to this. A lot of people, there's people that are just stupid and they commit acts of crimes and murders and things like that. But there's also people, I believe, in psychiatric centers and in prisons, people with certain types of dementia, that because I know what I know in paranormal, there is a possibility, like Ron DeFeo from the Amityville Horror House and other cases, that the person can be affected by a negative influence where 1,000 other people won't see it, believe it, touch it, nothing. They won't believe, because the entity can lay dormant within the person as a spiritual attachment. And it leads me to believe that a lot of these cases, the negative entity will go through a person to commit these crimes. And again, it's very few, but I believe it is possible, because when they interview these people in prison or psychiatric centers or what, they sometimes speak out of three sides, the left, the right, and they speak another verse that comes from absolutely nowhere, and they don't even know what they're saying. And when they said originally that they were affected by something and something made me do it or heard the voices, there's truth to that. Again, they're all crazy, sick people that has nothing to do with spiritual stuff.
Right.
I look at the case of the Son of Sam. I look at Ron DeFeo, and I look at other cases, Edgar Casey, and I see a pattern, a similar pattern of influence from the other side that can affect humanity, because some people had normal lives. Right. You put on the ID channel these investigations where they find the hair fiber and how the person was murdered, and they go back to the character of the person who did it, and they were normal corporate jobs, normal families, and you say to yourself, well, how is that possible? And as a paranormal investigator living in a haunted home, I can tell you that these things are real. And sometimes negative influences, whether you try to pick up through audio equipment or pictures or you don't, doesn't mean it's not around you. So you have to be careful. I always say that a paranormal investigator is like a fireman or a cop. You're putting yourself in that line where you really don't know what you're communicating with. And I know a lot of people out there, haha, it's fun, and I can't wait to see what I capture. And that's great, but I've also seen the other side where people get affected so bad they try to take their own lives or someone else's life. I have seen death within the paranormal community, and I've been in this field hardcore since 2014, and I got to say that you really have to take protective measures and be careful, because you don't know what you're dealing with to a degree, and you got to trend lightly. And going back now into the mid-90s, I wasn't trending lightly doing rituals. I was hardcore doing these things. I was gaining empowerment, negative energy that was being created, and then my lifespan started to also take a downturn where now things were starting to come back at me in a negative way.
Yep.
So first I was empowered, and now everything's being thrown at me negative. So that's what they want. They will break you down. They will give you what you want and they will take from you. And when they take, they will take hard and try to destroy you and people around you.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why I was so interested when you reached out to interview you, because, you know, a lot of people may go, but this is a story of, light versus dark, good versus evil. I mean, and as we go along with your story, everybody will hear um, how how what's the right word I'm looking for? How interesting it gets, because I don't think people realize the risks of going into somebody's personal home and trying to help them, because, like you said, we don't know exactly what's out there and who we're communicating with. And there's a few people that I do look to and go, you know what? God bless you. Because most people don't want to get involved with that. And I just want to read what Selena said. Selena says, any Italian knows that most Italians are into it. This is the first time I heard it talked about publicly. Most don't talk about it outside the home.
True.
Um, Welcome, Dirty South. Um, so before you moved into this home, you also had paranormal experiences in your other homes as well, correct?
Yes, so in the late 90s, um, I always felt the presence of Sarah and I seen a mental image of her. And she became a protector, like I said. And here's one of the mysterious things that they will gain your trust. And she gained my trust 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I was into some things. Again, I'm from Staten Island, New York. So I was into things that I shouldn't have been involved with. And this guy, this actual co-friend, I remember him coming to my home in the front yard and we're talking and he's asking me questions that he shouldn't have been asking me, as if he was wearing a wire or something. And I look up at my top bedroom window. This is my mom's home now in the front. And I see this quick, very quick second image of Sarah. And she has dark hair, white complexion, no older than 13, extremely white, high cheekbones, white dress, a second visual, straight on image. And in my mind, she goes, move. So I move, and a car's coming out of the gas station and almost hits this co-friend of mine. So he had to jump out of the way, and the car hits a pole.
Mm-hmm.
And I really thought at that point he was going to get hit by the car because no one was driving it. The guy was putting gas in the car across the street, and the car, I guess, went in a drive however it did. And I moved, I got out of the way quick, and it almost hit this guy who I believe was setting me up to the feds, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So she gained my trust. And years went on, and I moved to, I lived in different locations, and she would always be around, and not in a haunting way, but in a protective way.
Right.
She would tell me certain things to do or it's crazy, certain jobs to apply for, certain friends to be careful of that she kind of knew.
Wow.
That were my friends. I used to ask her, who are you? Where'd you come from? But I never had an answer. She never gave me the answer. But through the mental image and that one time of the visual image, that's what she showed me, is this young girl. And my wife and I, well, here's the thing. Here's a kicker to this whole story of my life, okay? 1999, my youngest sister goes, let's go out to a club called Silo in Staten Island, New York. I was like, all right, you know what? It's a Saturday night. Let's go out. And I really don't drink or anything. And the club had like 1,000 people in it. It was a dance club, and had a couple drinks, my sister, and I remember in my mind, Sarah's voice coming through. I know that voice. She's a very distinctive voice. And she pushes me in the back, Sarah. I bump into this girl and she goes, "That's her. That's my wife today."
Mm-hmm.
It's ironic how the spirits, whether they're good or evil in this case, you know, they will introduce you to someone who will be part of your life. And that sticks in my mind, because we think that, here's the simple way we think, is that, well, a negative entity is just going to give us invaluable information. It's not true. They will help you. They will help you,
Mm-hmm.
and then they will come after you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they gain energy from us.
Mm-hmm.
So if a spirit is attached, like Sarah was attached to me, she was always gaining my energy from the
Mm-hmm.
physical realm, which made her stronger and her presence stronger and her awareness of my life stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's something that will always resonate with me, is why, how, but it did happen. And that was a good thing. I mean, look, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. It's really interesting. I don't think that we'll ever truly understand how entities work
Right.
completely. It's a life lesson, and I try to teach people what I know.
Exactly. It's interesting because I always tell people you have to be careful, because you may be, they're giving and giving. They're going to want you to pay up. And so that's why I always say be careful what you wish for. And like you said, intention is everything. I mean,
Yes.
that is the key. It is everything.
Yes.
Um, good, bad, or otherwise. Um, I always tell my husband laughs at me because we have a teenage son, and I always said, no matter what you do, good, bad, or otherwise, you will have to pay for it.
True.
Something always comes back. So it, it's an easy way of telling him intentions mean everything. So, can you explain um, why your current home was so much different than your other homes you lived in?
The other homes had paranormal activity, but nothing. Maybe the TV would go on and off, maybe a voice or two, maybe a picture or two of certain things that couldn't be explained. Um, I believe that was Sarah just letting me know, hey, I'm around. I'm always around. 2009, we had another home in Pennsylvania. Zero paranormal activity. Zero. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Life was perfect. Money was good. Family was good. Perfect. Storybook of a family. Everything was perfect because there was nothing going on. Absolutely nothing with paranormal. So in 2010, we wanted to move to a different part of Pennsylvania. We were looking for a home, and we found a few. And the one that I had found that I was attracted to through the internet, unfortunately, when I called the real estate, they said it was under contract, meaning the home that I'm in now. Then we seen a couple of other homes, and one home was owned by multiple priests, which was still a beautiful home. And we really had our eye on it up until about a month afterwards, when we're still doing our search. My wife called me one day. I was working in New Jersey, and she goes, "Guess what? That house is off the market. It's not on the contract no more either." She goes, "I'm just going to call and see what's going on." So she called, and they pulled it because I guess they were going to raise the price, and the people that were going to buy pulled out somehow. And I remember my wife went to come see the house first, and I went with the real estate agent and my wife, and I'm in the backyard, and a gust of wind comes, and we're doing the walkthrough, and I fell in love with the home. I love basements. It's a finished basement. But then there was this one room in the basement that was painted red, and it was this big exercise machine in there. And the real estate agent, my wife, went upstairs to the dining room, and I'm in the room alone, and I felt my equilibrium balance going off, like I was going to pass out either way, left or right. Something wasn't right. And I really didn't understand it. And I wasn't thinking anything paranormal. So I left the room, went upstairs, and I says, we want this home. We want it. And here's the thing about good and evil for the listener out there. We had a lot of problems trying to get the home, whether it was our bank, whether it was the bank of the people we were buying it from, whether it was our real estate agent or their real estate. I mean, we dealt with so many issues. At one point, I called up the homeowners. I don't want the house. It's too much trouble. I don't know what it is. I don't want the house. And that was actually the sign I wasn't listening to. That was the sign to say, Philip, do not get the home. We're giving you obstacles in your life not to get this home. Don't do it. And my wife had said, no, let's keep fighting to get the home. So I really didn't want it. And I says, all right, if you like the home. And I kept fighting. And then we went to the closing. And the people were very, very mean, arrogant, and rude, the sellers. I didn't know why, what their problem was with me. And a few months after living in the home, part of their closing check came here for a large amount of money. And I tried reaching out to them, but they wouldn't accept my phone call. Like they were just done with me and the house. Again, wow. And the house. Wow. So it led me to start to think, well, what's going on? Now, 6 months living in the home, I start to see shadows. Nothing negative, but shadows up in the living room. Thinking it's just my imagination because nothing's happened for a long time within paranormal. Like I said, the year before was perfect. No paranormal activity. But you see, that's how it works because it may not leave ever. It may lay dormant. It may think you're free, you're set, and you'll always be free. Mm-hmm. But from my knowledge and experience and my family's knowledge, sometimes they can play hide and seek.
Yes.
Where you won't see, you won't hear, where you won't feel, nothing will happen. That a bulb will blink, nothing, up until they're ready again. Mm-hmm. And I got this picture, and I thought it was haunted. That might have been it. I broke it in the backyard. My wife gets mad at me. Nothing happens for 6 months later. Again, everything's normal. And then I always felt like on the weekends when I was off at work, I had to get out of the house. I had to do something because something was off in the home. And I didn't know what it was. And I wasn't relating to paranormal. It was like feng shui, like something, the house is off-centered somehow. I said, tell my wife I have to get out for a little bit. It's off. Something is not right with this house. And I would go to work and talk to coworkers, and they would say maybe the house is off-centered. It's on an energy line or something where it could be, a number of things. Radon, gas, carbon monoxide. So I had everything checked, every single thing. The kids were small. But nothing came through where it was any kind of electricity or radon or any kind of electromagnetic fields through the wires in the walls or the ceiling that would do this. And as time went on, I remember the morning of July 2013, I get up really early for work, and I see the shadow. It's the size of a cantaloupe, and it's flying so fast in my kitchen that I think it's the bulbs. I think it's the sunlight casting through the shade. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm watching it go from the living room to the kitchen to the dining room. And I'm just thinking, well, it's my eyes. I go to work. And I'm talking to coworkers about it, you know, because that's what we do. We talk about things in our own families and homes and hauntings, I guess. And I'll never forget, my one friend says, Phil, you should tell the world what's going on with your life because it should be in a book. And I says, no. I don't even know what I'm dealing with here. But I was being pulled again into that world of darkness because you see, when my friend said you should write a book and tell the world about it, and my other friend, he's like, yeah, I want to be part of this too. I was like, I don't know what I believe and what I don't. But all right, I guess I'll try it. We work so many long hours, I don't know what I can do. So I found myself in an agreement with two friends, two coworkers. And on Saturday afternoons after work, I would go to one of their homes and I would tell my life story and what's going on in my home. And every time I did it, and they were recording it with the video camera and a tape recorder, voices would come through. And we thought they were voices from maybe outside or whatever. And I remember talking about a horsefly. And I remember telling them at certain times I'm circled by this thing. And I know that, of course, there's flies and horseflies, but this thing is huge. It's black. It's a big horsefly. And it circles me at the weirdest times, like when something negative is going to happen. And my coworkers dismissed it and laughed it off. And I guess I kind of laughed it off too. To the listener out there, this is what did happen. One was called a project manager. One was called a director of helping me with the book. We also got a psychic medium involved from Westfield, New Jersey. And we also got involved an artist. And my friend who said you should write a book came up with the name, The Horsefly. And then my son's math teacher in Pennsylvania got involved as the editor, and she goes, Chronicles. And we combined it and became the Horsefly Chronicles. Well, not only did we come up with a good name and a popular name of something that was happening, but now we gave it life. Mm-hmm. And that's why I said, listen to this. We gave it life. You see, as I'm telling this story and it's being recorded, I would get phone calls and messages once a week through the editor, through the project manager, or through my friend who was a director, or through the psychic medium or the artist. There's a horsefly in my house. And I would laugh and say, come on, be real. My son's math teacher, there's a horsefly on my window. It's dead of winter. You see, there's a belief and a thought that these things can manifest through us, these entities. And when I was writing down the book and how I wanted the book to be told through my life story, I found myself always playing Indian drum beats, which I don't know why I was doing. It was stupid, real loud in my basement. I was blasting Indian drum beats. Ooh. And it was helping me automatically write the book through an automatic writing. It was becoming easy. When I would stop playing the drum beats, I had a hard time seeing how I was putting the book together through words. When I would play it super loud, and I found it on YouTube, these drum beats, and it was this one particular drum beat that kept going, and it would help me. Well, now what was happening was this. The project manager, his wife fell down the stairs. She broke her foot. He called me up. He goes, maybe it's a coincidence, but ever since I got involved with this, trying to help you out, bad things have been happening. There's no way you're going to tell me, Phil, that a horsefly in the dead of winter appears in my home. My wife sees it. It's impossible. A few days later, he falls down the stairs in his house and breaks his tailbone. He says, I'm done. I'm out. I can't do this no more. Yeah. The director who is an atheist, didn't believe in any of this stuff, just wanted to help out because he thought it was a really good story of the Horsefly Chronicles in my life, had an encounter with a horsefly, and he goes, I don't really know what to make of this. He goes, I'm out. It was in my car, and it just doesn't make sense to me. The artist who drew the original horsefly on the original book cover, the original that was on Amazon, was pulled, tried to take his life. The psychic medium called me up hysterical, and she says there's little flies coming out of her wall socket in her home, which I thought was ridiculous.
Wow.
She tried to drive her car off a bridge because she couldn't handle it no more. My son's math teacher said something's throwing change at her windows in the middle of the night, flushing the toilet, opening and closing doors in the home. She couldn't take it no more either. Throughout the time of me trying to get a book done and all these mysterious things happening to non-believers, believers, and people who just thought it was a good story, is now being manifested through the thoughts and empowerment of each one of our minds. Because as we're giving and thinking that a horsefly is possible to appear, it does appear. Mm-hmm. And when it does, and it's a real horsefly, and like you could be crushed, but it doesn't make a difference because another one will come. Mm-hmm. Because we gave it that empowerment. Somehow, when we opened up that door, like I opened up the door years prior with the Ouija board, through the rituals and through the book of Goetia, it was the same thing coming through, letting us know, I got you, all in my spider web.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to really quick welcome Sabra. So which event happened first, when your son got sick, or when you call, or did you call the paranormal team in, or did your son get sick? I wasn't sure.
My son had gotten sick. He had that room in the basement. We made a bedroom because he wanted privacy. And we made it a bedroom, and he had at a young age gotten pancreatitis. And the hospital said that for a young kid to get pancreatitis is not heard of. So something told me through my mind, the voice of Sarah, get him out of the room. I got him out of the room. We made another room in the home upstairs, and he slowly started to recover. Wow. In 2014, I contacted a paranormal team that I seen on television. And I remember they came down, the owner came down, and we talked. And he said, okay, I'll bring my team here. And I didn't follow through with it. But then so many things were starting to happen in the home, where there's voices and negative energy and fighting and arguing and bulbs flickering and the television. I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I didn't know much about paranormal teams per se at this point. They came down with like a team of 6, 7 different people. And that was a Friday night. One of their psychic mediums was on my front lawn throwing up. The other one wanted to fight everybody. The other people were in that room in the basement, and they caught a picture of what looks to be, again, there are optical illusions, but it looks to be like a demon. Well, coincidentally, at the same time the picture was caught, there's growls coming through in their recorder. So the night went on. It wasn't a good night. The owner got in touch with me a few days later and says that you're dealing with a demon. And I didn't believe a word he said, because that's just me. I really didn't, a demon. So a month later, I contacted another paranormal team that has nothing to do with them to see if they would find anything in the home. And what they caught was a picture of a red orb. They were affected. They were scratched. A lot of people were sick. And it started again to raise my curiosity, like, here we go. This is real, isn't it? So as the time went on and the years went on, I've had team after team after team up until I've had priest in my home. I've had Catholic priest. I've had Wiccan, shaman, reverend. I've had all walks of religion come to my home, because every time I would have someone come to the home of a higher power, nothing would happen. You see, the thing plays you stupid too, because it doesn't show itself. They think like there's nothing in the home. It's, what are you dealing with? The paranormal teams capture it, but not the priest or the reverend or the deacon. They don't capture anything. No bulbs. It's like silence, like the home is peaceful.
Yeah.
And we had a ministry in the year 2015 come down. And that's when hell broke loose in the Horsefly Chronicles home. The team was consisted of people from all different types of religions. Large team. I liked what they were doing. They spent the Saturday from the morning up until the evening doing everything that every one of them knew how to do. The shamans, everyone had a different thing to do within the home. Every bedroom, every floor, outside property, even a deliverance of myself. And I felt this pull within me as they were reading these prayers. I felt a pull, like something coming from within me. And it didn't feel right. And they believed, and I believed as the day went on, that it was gone. They knew there was something here that was negative, and it was gone. Sunday rolls around. Home is beautiful. My kids are playing with toys in the living room. Me and my wife have tears in our eyes. It's over. We win. Monday night rolls around. I have an office in the basement. I had to do paperwork and come down alone. And I see shadows casting on the corner of my eye. I didn't make nothing of it. A little toy dinosaur goes off on the floor. And the dinosaur cannot go off because the dinosaur had to be, you have to push the tail down. It's not light or motion activated. I'm like, maybe I bumped into it. And then it goes off again. At the same time, it went off the second time. My wife is saying, Phil, get upstairs. The kids are screaming on the third floor. The lights are flickering. Talk about defeat. Talk about feeling like we lost. It showed itself in a way where we were able, and I get frightened even talking about this, to be honest with you. I'm in the basement alone right now. This is where it happened, that it showed us what it can do. I got my cell phone, my kids got their cell phones, and this video is on YouTube. And we're recording the dinosaur, which cannot go off unless you push the tail down. I'm asking questions.
Nobody's
and it's not
there.
responding.
I watched it.
You seen it?
Yeah, nobody's. You don't even see anybody. They're behind you, and
Yes.
you're asking questions, and this thing's going off and going off. So yeah, it was crazy.
To this day, it gives me goosebumps and still frightens me of how it's possible. And I remember being on Paranormal Zone TV with Noreen, and one of her film people caught, when they blew it up, a shadow person coming down the stairs. The same exact time this thing is going off. We recorded it for about 15 minutes. I don't believe we did the whole 15 minutes on YouTube. So I'm asking questions and it's going off. You can't make that happen.
Yeah.
So then we had a seasoned paranormal investigator come to our home from Virginia. And this guy's been around the world. He's like, look, let's make this thing go off. Let's try it. Let's try the lights. I'm going to put light in front of it. Let's do motion in front of it. Nothing. It would not go off. You could not make it go off unless you, again, have to physically push that tail down. Well, about 2 months later, I'm asking questions with another investigator in the home upstairs, and you hear through the walls, because the dinosaur was left in the room down in the basement, you hear it go off. And to me, that's the spirit, the entity saying, don't mess with me. Don't try to remove me. I always will be. And I could do a lot more damage than you think I can.
Yeah. Okay,
now,
let me back up just a little bit so people can get a really good image of what y'all were dealing with. So while your son was, he had his bedroom in the basement, in this one particular room in the basement, he was also experiencing other things besides being sick. He complained a lot about the toys going
Yeah.
off on their own, and
I worked long hours. I would come home from work, and he says the toys were going off by themselves, and I didn't want. I says, "No, come on, stop the nonsense." That's what I said.
wow. Let me just welcome real quick. Hello, Sheriff. Welcome. Um, the other thing was, if I remember correctly, the first paranormal team that came in, didn't one of the investigators get a good bite?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. And then the second paranormal team that came in, they all kinds of craziness was happening to them.
The team leader, got a scratch on the ankle walking through the kitchen as they were playing the song Ave Maria, trying to remove the spirit. Ave Maria is a beautiful song, and she was bleeding. And thought me, I says, well, you bumped into something. That's just me. And then other people were slowly being affected. It took a lot for me to digest mentally and physically what was happening in this home and the realism.
Mm-hmm.
Look, let's being quite frank with everybody. Seeing as a demon in your home, someone told me that, I would say it's BS. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Up until things that happen cannot be explained, and then people being affected. There were people and teams that have come here that inflamed this thing by trying to say certain things to piss it off, in a sense where they were in car accidents up the block or a few miles away. I would get phone calls that they can't sleep at night because something's with them in their home. I remember another person had a stroke. And I'm saying to myself, this thing that was manifested through the thought that once was back in the 90s is again, and now we empowered it. Now it has a full amount of energy within the physical realm, and it's doing things that no one's going to understand. No one's going to believe. And quite frankly, I don't know how to, go with this. And that's why the Horsefly Chronicles had become such a big name, because I've had over 50
That's what I was
paranormal
fixing to
teams from
ask.
around the world, because my wife would say, you have a hard head. What's wrong with you? When are you going to realize, yes, it's here. These things are here. And I wasn't buying it. And we had all these teams, and, different people were affected in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2020, we had the privilege of having NESPR come here.
Mm-hmm. Well, hang on, because we got some more. I got some good questions, because believe it or not, there's still quite a few people out there that haven't heard your story, and that's why I wanted to tell it so much. So you started calling your home a demonic haunting because of what was happening with other investigators, other teams.
The original team that came here labeled it a demonic haunting.
Okay.
And I agreed, after so many teams came here, that's what it is. It ain't friendly. It ain't Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's evil, pure evil.
So since all this, you've had all these investigations and everything, have you guys done any research on the land that your house sits on?
Yes. In 2017, I hired people that do that exact work, research land. And here's what they found out. I live in Forks Township between the Eastern and Delaware River. They found out that the Iroquois Indians lost a battle here. They were tricked by a treaty, and there was a lot of bloodshed within the area. This was farmland after that. And when I talk about the Indian drum beats, when I had to write the book, and how I only could write the book through Indian drum beats, it kind of now was signaling that a lot of the pitches that were caught here by paranormal teams are false face masks that the Indians would use to scare off their rivals. So there it is.
Wow. That's very interesting. And I had watched an interview with a remote viewer, and she wasn't even in the country. And she was explaining the layout of your land and how there's this, I don't want to call it a mountain, but a good mound, like a decent sized hill, not far from your property, that I found that to be very interesting.
Yes, and she believed that she also picked up the body of water, which is the river not too far from us, the
Hmm.
Delaware River.
Yeah, that's that's very very interesting to hear. Um, do you know if your neighbors or anybody in your neighborhood are experiencing anything? It doesn't even have to be at the level at where you guys are at, but it could be, something to get somebody's attention.
So it's an estate neighborhood with snooty people. Um, we don't share experiences because everyone is snooty. We're not
Hmm.
snooty, my family, but that's how the neighborhood is. That's the characteristic
Right.
of this neighborhood. However, however, I will say that the homes don't last long here. They turn over for the most part within 3 to 5 years. They're for sale. The house to the left of me twice, it sold. To the right of me 3 times. Across the
Wow.
street. So the homes don't last long here. The
Wow.
people. Um, no, we never talked about it. Um, but the homes don't last long, which means to me also that, well, of course, I mean, people move, but not at that quick of a pace. So I think, and I feel like the land is on this negative energy,
Hmm.
and it could be you may not be a believer in any of this stuff, but it can affect you in different ways.
Oh, absolutely.
Fighting with your spouse, money problems, don't know why you want to move, but you move. It just can play a lot of
Mhm.
mental tricks with you.
Yeah. Like we were talking in the beginning, it affects people, everybody differently. I mean, my husband is totally void of picking up anything. And I'm picking up things left, right, sideways, and forwards, and so it does and can affect people differently. And with that high of selling houses, wow. I mean, that's mind blowing to me right there. And I find it funny, and it could be too. I mean, I grew up in the 70s, and in the 70s, we just didn't talk about stuff. It's okay to tell ghost stories, but you don't talk about anything personally
Yes,
that's happening in your home. And I think a
yes.
lot of people, even though paranormal has become more open, I think there's still a lot of people out there that are like, mm-mm, no, no. So that's interesting.
You
Um,
know, for people that don't believe, or like I said in the beginning of the show, maybe in one sense it's a good thing. I'm not here to convince people. I used to try to convince people that my house is haunted and ghosts are real, and but I says to myself, maybe in this life journey, the way I'm not meant to be an astronaut, they're not meant to see the spiritual realm for the way we see it. And that's
right.
okay. Just not in this lifetime. They're not meant to encounter these things.
Mm,
So let it be. If they are
absolutely.
receptive and open, it's fine. You can talk about it. But if they're not and they're really closed, then maybe you should just, accept it for what it is.
Right. Um, so we talked about um all these investigators, the mediums and psychics that have come through your home. Um, are you this story really piqued my interest. Are you able to share about the one female investigator? She was, I think, in another part of the house by herself, and she disappeared. You went back through your security and saw that she disappeared for, I think you said 12 minutes.
Yes. Again, this touches a lot of different areas. So,
Mm-hmm.
a paranormal team that's well known didn't believe in the Horsefly Chronicles story, and I'm one to say, don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Come down. That's just what I say. Come down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they came down. It was 4 or 5 of them, and when they came down, I went Facebook Live, which is somewhere in my Facebook feed, and I interviewed every one of them. And I remember the leader from Paranormal Challenge, I'm not going to say names,
Mm-hmm.
and his girlfriend, who was also a psychic and an investigator, saying that the night before they were visited by something in their apartment that's negative, and they felt like it came from here, even though they had a hard time believing the story. Something was not right, and something was in that apartment, and they heard like these growls and voices of some kind of demon. Now, this is all on my Facebook Live. I'm recording this.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing the investigation after that, and they set everything up, and I have surveillance cameras throughout the home. And the leader, which is her boyfriend at the time, asked her to stay in the living room upstairs as we all go downstairs and communicate with Sarah. So I remember she had this teddy bear, this toy teddy bear, and we're downstairs. And as the night's going on, the team leader is getting agitated and very demanding towards his team and very confrontational. So they left. They got what they wanted and they left. And I didn't hear from the guy. So a month later, I reached out to him. I was like, well, what kind of evidence did you get here? The Horsefly Chronicles home. He goes, well, it's not good. I was like, I was going through my surveillance tapes, and the female investigator in my living room disappeared for 12 minutes. And that's impossible unless there was a glitch within my camera system at the time. She's asking to communicate with Sarah. And he says to me, well, I don't want to talk about her. And something didn't sit right with me. I was like, okay. And then about a week later, I find out in the newspapers that she's dead. There's coincidences, there's facts. The newspaper article read that there was some kind of an altercation and an argument between the both of them, and she got hurt and unfortunately didn't make it through their fight. Mm-hmm. And then I look back at my Facebook Live feed of when they came here and they said they were visited. And then I look back at his demeanor in the home, how he was changing. He was getting really argumentative with his team and demanding. Is it a fact? Is it a coincidence? Or was it a sign that she was pulled through the other side because she was tampering with Sarah alone? Somehow she mysteriously disappears, and then not too long after they get into an argument, and she doesn't survive the argument because of physical altercations. Look, I can't say for sure, and I have a hard time with this, but I can say that by having so many teams here and investigating, and even myself going to other locations, that we all think and we all feel like, well, we have all the answers. We know it. We don't have any answers. In fact, any paranormal investigator out there, you got to scratch on the surface of answers. That's all we have.
Yeah.
That's all we have. If you think you're this perfect psychic medium investigator and you're a know-all, you're fooling yourself. and you're pulling the words out of your mouth towards other people. Because quite frankly, I know a scratch of what's going on around here. I don't know everything. And I could say that so many people, investigators, have fallen so quick, not by my home, they died. And I look at their lives, I'm friends with them, and I'm saying, well, this guy was on my radio show, or she was on my radio show, and then all of a sudden, yeah, their cancer's getting worse, or their sickness is getting worse. Look, here's a fact. We don't know what we're dealing with, period. I don't care if you're on television. I don't care if you get paid $1 million a year to be an investigator. You're not going to try to fool me and my family. We live in a haunted home. But we know very little about what that side does and wants. Very little. I don't care what kind of equipment you have and what you use. It's real. It exists, but we don't know what it wants from us.
Right.
And we may think we have the answers when we go to haunted locations and we're talking to Mrs. Jones who died in the 1800s. Do you really think in your simpleton mind that you're talking to Mrs. Jones who died in the 1800s because you're there? Or are you talking to a mimic? Something that is portraying to be how to steer you in and follow you along and destroy you down the road, whether it be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and come after your family. You don't know. The fact is, I've seen what these things can do. You are not going to see, for the most part, you are not going to see something face to face unless you have a strong energy and presence like I had with this girl, Sarah. You will get these things on pictures. Sometimes pictures will come through. Most pictures can be optical illusions. They're not going to show you what they really look like.
No.
The best way and measure to capture the other side is a digital recorder. Not a spirit box where you're trying to make out words and you don't know what it's saying, so you make your own creative thoughts. No. A digital recorder that has silence, and you ask a question and you wait a minute and play it back and see if you're capturing the other side. That has happened in my home multiple times in other locations. And that, to me, is a factual information side that we are communicating with the spirit realm.
Yeah. And again, that's why I really stress this. People don't know what they're getting into. I mean, the way I explain to people is I may be able to communicate with a spirit, but they have free will.
Yes.
And I can go, don't lie to me. And it's not going to make a difference. That's like, telling somebody who's physically right there going, but don't lie to me.
Yes.
So you don't know, you kind of have to push a little bit to get more, but people just have to be careful because and I know you'll agree with me, as rare as a demonic haunting is, it does happen. They are few and far between, but it does happen.
Yes.
And so the one thing, because I already know your answer on this, but what happens if somebody comes into your home and I don't know if they have, and start to provoke?
Well, that's happened. I said a little bit earlier. Bad things will start to happen in the home. So they'll come here, and if they provoke, I don't believe you, show me how strong you are, do this, do that. And in my mind, I'm just rolling my eyes thinking that you're just stupid as an investigator for doing this. You're stupid because you don't know what you're talking to. And you think you're talking to a child. You better think twice if you're really a paranormal investigator. So what does happen? The shadows will appear from the basement wall. They will cast from the basement wall. That's what does happen. They look like snaky shadow things going up and down the wall, and everybody sees it. The second thing is the batteries and the equipment go dead that they're using. The third thing is now voices that shouldn't have been coming through are coming through that are negative, and the threats are coming through. F you, this and that, from the other side. And in this particular home, when they're provoked, a male comes through who seems to be like this leader, this chief guy. They call him the Indian chief. And once he's antagonized,
Oh.
it's as if he sends all his commanders. I'm giving an example. This is just an example. After everybody. Someone doesn't feel good on the team, they get sick. Someone's in my bathroom throwing up. Someone can't breathe, they're getting choked. These are facts. They're getting choked. Um, in fact, the exact spot that I'm sitting in uh, was where the project manager in 2013 was sitting, and he was being choked. He had to get out, and he never came back into the home after that. So I believe that you got to be careful with the words that you choose, because the words have empowerment. And if you really antagonize that other side, and it is a negative influence, such as a demonic entity, they're going to come after you. And we had a big event here, and I had people from, it was called Dinner with a Ghost. It was a really nice event. They travel the world and they set up different locations with a 5-star meal for everybody. Really nice, really nice. And I had a lot of non-believers here, a lot of military people, a lot of big guys that fighting like Iraq and Afghanistan. And I remember at one point we were all eating dinner, and the basement was set up really beautiful. And I don't believe there's anything here. I think we wasted our money. And I'm sitting across, and then the guy's fiance goes, "There's nothing here." And in my mind, I'm just shaking my head like, why are we doing this? Like, you got to be careful. But you really can't tell the non-believer that, right? There was 15 of us, all the liquids in everyone's glass without the table shaking. All the liquids in the glasses was shaking. And all of a sudden, the girl, the fiance, is grabbing her throat, saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And she's gasping for air. So they get her out of the house in the front. And I go up there about 5 minutes later, and they said, "We're not coming back in that hole." And I'll never forget this guy's words. He goes, "Look, I'm a big military guy. I could fight wars around the world, but I can't fight what I can't see. Take care." So you can't provoke. Don't be silly. Just don't do it. And not only that, but it doesn't have to happen. Look, there's no time in the spiritual world. You think because we were watching, well, at 5 o'clock, they didn't come after us? Well, you know what? It could be a year down the road where you may have something bad happen to you, and that ain't no coincidence.
Right.
These things can say, "You know what? Now it's my time because you were the one who antagonized and provoked me. Watch what I can do to you." My first radio show, I will never forget this. My first radio show back in 2013. The host at the end of the show, it was me, the project manager, and the psychic medium. I was doing the show from New Jersey, and the host goes, "I don't believe a word you're saying. Thanks for coming on, but I don't believe a word you're saying." I says, "Thanks for having me on." A couple of weeks later, I get an email, never to contact him again, to be on his show or have any kind of communication with him. He goes, "Ever since you're on my show, there's disembodied female voices coming through, scare my family. And I live in Tennessee. You're not around the corner from me. Don't contact me anymore. Goodbye." You can't make this stuff up. At one point, it's just, it's real. This is stuff that does happen. It does exist. And we have to be careful. And when people come here to investigate, or other investigators that go to different locations, the best advice I give people is tread lightly. And what that means is that don't put your whole heart, soul, and intention into that investigation, because you may not get out of it the way you went into it.
Right. Well, I mean, like I tell everybody, if you're going to go into somebody's home or somebody's place of business, then you have to go in with the utmost respect, because those spirits were there before you and they will still be there after you. Um, I'm not big on um, people saying they're moving spirits on. Well, you don't know where you're moving them onto. So that can be very tricky and it can backfire on you. But I always say, if you go in one with respect, honest to goodness respect, and don't sit there and treat them like a dog and pony show and demand for them to bang on this, knock that. It's like, how would you feel if somebody walked into your home and started ordering you around and wanting you to do these absolutely bizarre things? Is that it makes no sense. So it as I said, this is for the. It doesn't matter who is in that space. If you just go, I'm just here to tell your story. Tell me your story.
Yes.
You know, it's so dicey. It's very interesting because Sheriff and Selena both have said that they're not feeling too well. That they can. I think Sheriff says he was getting a headache. And Selena said she was feeling something too and was blocking it. And I can say that I do feel a little, but not that bad. I feel more like um, my balance is off a little bit. That's
Yeah.
so. When you had all these religious people that came in, um, how was your home before it happened, during the happen, and after? We know afterwards, but how was the things in your home reacting before they got there? Because there's one thing that you said to me that resonated, and I had interviewed Keith Linder, and Keith
Great guy.
Linder,
He's a great guy.
yes, he is. I love him. I gave him almost 6 hours airtime. I
Wow.
was like, tell your story. I
Yeah.
said, if you can sit there and tell it, I'll tell it, because that's all he wanted you to do, and nobody. Oh, that's lovely. Uh, Sorry, I apologize. These YouTube bots are plaguing. Um, what he said to me, and I didn't even realize it until he explained to me. He's like, they listen, whether you're over the phone and talking and making plans, they listen. Whether you're sending an email, they're listening. He's like, you can't hide from these, spirits or being or entities, and when we talked, before, when we were planning when to do the interview, you said something very similar to that. So that what I found interesting was how how was your house, when all these people were coming in to help you. I mean, they had good intentions. Was your house reacting any way different
Well,
before?
before we would have any religious figure here, like a priest or Wiccan or a shaman or reverend or someone from the church, before the house was very negative. Shadows everywhere, lights flickering, a lot of fighting, a lot of arguing,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of medical problems. During the priest, reverend, whoever was reading from the Holy Bible or whether the shaman was blessing the home and the property, always during, nothing. And after, whether it be a few hours to a few days, the shadows would cast back in. So they play hide and seek. They lay dormant when they want to. They listen.
Mm-hmm.
Like he says, he's right. And you don't know the element of surprise. Look, I go back to that video on YouTube, but I can't watch that video because it frightens me
Yeah.
of the strength of this thing. But
Yes.
I put it out there for the world to see that. Look, you could say it's BS and this and that. No, there it is. It's real, period. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm black and white. You believe it or you don't, it's real. They know how to manipulate electricity. And if they can manipulate electricity and toys and electronics, what do you think they could do to your mind? Right? Because we're energy.
Yep.
So if they could drain the battery off of your camcorder, your digital recorders, when you're doing an investigation, what can they do to the physical body? I live in a haunted home. I remember there was times I felt so drained and tired. I went for blood work, and the doctors would say that mysteriously, your vitamin D is so low, we don't even know how you're standing. And then I go back to paranormal. I'm saying, is it possible I'm being depleted by some of these things? Because if they can use the batteries and electronic equipment and during investigations, is this happening to me in my own home that is physically wearing me down now? And I believe the answer to be yes, that they can drain us. You ever hear of the paranormal hangover where you went into an investigation and then the next day you're like, I feel like a zombie, I can't move. Well, what do you think's happening if you live in a haunted house 24/7? After a while, you become part of that that drainage, and until you get out of it, move, which hopefully in the near future, if we ever can do it. Look, it's a beautiful home. Like I said, it's in an estate neighborhood. It ain't a cheap house, but I've had people say to me, "Get out now." Because it ain't, you couldn't pay me to live in this home. I don't care how nice it is. Get out. That's what they would tell me. Get out now. I guess there is some point of that's true, but when you got an investment in your property, when you look at your financial papers, it's hard to say, well, get out now, because those who don't believe it say, well, you stupid. You want to get out at a big and lose all this money? It's crazy, right? Like, you have one family lives in a home and they're haunted. Amityville, for example. You have the second family, they're haunted, and you have a third family with absolutely nothing. They call the first two families fake. They're not fake. People get affected in different ways. It just can mean the third family financially goes bankrupt, where the first family sees demons and the second family has voices. If they're there, if negative entities are there, they're going to take you either way. They're going to get you either way, because that's the mission. That's, in the beginning of the show, when I was talking about my rituals in the 90s and I'm falling into this trap, they reel you in and they take you down. And whether you believe or you don't believe, ultimately, whatever your faith is, they come after you. We've lost a lot of battles here.
Yeah.
I don't talk about removal, provoking anymore. And I do want to, if you have any more questions before, I do want to get into NESPR, because I think that's a significant.
Oh, absolutely. Trust me, that's one of my questions. So what I found very interesting is you said that people have come to your home, and I'm going to assume along with your family, and they've experienced time lapses, loss of memory, bites, scratches. What do you think? I mean, it's easy because I can say to get the answer, but what do you think causes all this, all these experiences that's happening to these people and to you guys as well?
Well, cousins, friends, relatives, for the most part, nothing happens because nothing's talked about, nothing's believed. Investigative psychic mediums and people that have gifts are affected in different ways. And it's as if you light the match to these things. And once you light the match, you give it that power. It's like you started a spark, and now you're going to get an explosion of things. And sometimes teams will just come here and they'll just be normal spirits communicating. And other times different teams will come here and bad things will happen. And sometimes teams will come here and they'll just get basic evidence, which leads me to believe, and what I've been told is that It's kind of like a highway for the spirit realm. The way the house is set up on this land is that spirits come and go, even though there's that one strong spirit, um, Sarah, and the chief. On recordings, there's somewhere out there in YouTube world, or there are recordings where you hear a young girl playing innocent, help me, the bad man's coming.
Yeah.
And she is the bad man, but I'll get into that.
Mm-hmm. So, can you tell us about this one room in the basement that was your son's bedroom? You've had a lot of things. A lot of investigators had things happen in that room.
Yeah, I just want to show you that room. There's the door.
Yep.
That's called the portal. It was given the portal name by the first paranormal team,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just carried on throughout the other paranormal teams that came here. So here's what happened. After my son was pulled out of that room, we had investigators go into the room. Some passed out, some got scratched. There is a picture of what looks to be like a demon. It could be optical illusion, but as I said earlier in the show, that there were growls in the recording. So the room is off-centered. Somehow it became a room that you don't feel right in.
Mm-hmm.
It's a separate entity in the room. And I remember having Brian Cannell here. And, he's very scientific, and he was in that room, and he wanted to get out of the room within 45 seconds. And I found it interesting, nice guy. He just didn't feel right in that room.
Mm-hmm.
And I also had someone in 2016 who is a devil worshiper come down from Chicago, and I did it for a reason. See, I'm not just going to go the religious aspect. I want people who worship demons to see,
Mm-hmm.
am I dealing with something here, or is this all stupidity? And this guy came down with no names, and he goes into the room, and he says, I know what this thing is. And this is a very powerful entity that I worship. And I don't know why you're dealing with this in this particular room. And he goes, if you don't get me out of this room, I'll kill all of you. And he started shaking, and we had to get him out of the house. I don't know why. I don't, because look, you take down the walls, there is no room. It's an open basement.
Mm-hmm.
It's that room. I used to broadcast radio shows years ago, and you would hear this female voice come through on the recordings of the shows. And I myself was doing experiments through that room with Paranormal Zone TV. We would get people around the world who were investigators, and we had that series going for a long time, and they would use their equipment, and you felt like something's trying to take you over in that room.
Right.
Not the regular basement, not upstairs. In that room, it's as if it took the room. And I don't understand that till today. I really don't. It's a bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand it. So it just happens to be dominant in that one area.
Wow. Because I know you had said you'd had investigators going, lock me in the room, and you would have to come and pull them out because they passed out or they're screaming and banging, begging
Yeah.
to be let out. And I mean, oh my goodness, that's
Yeah, like we've had seasoned investigators come here. We had events, and they insisted, put me in this room, lock me in this room. So we locked them in the room. The first 10 minutes, nothing's happening. Then they feel like something is watching them. Then they can feel a presence, and then they want out because things are starting to happen where they don't feel right in the room. They need out.
Mm-hmm.
So it builds up. It's energy. It's negative
Yep.
energy towards that person. It's as if you're in a shark tank and the shark didn't get to you yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's how one of the investigators described it. It's like being in a shark tank.
And what a lot of people don't know is you've had some really big name heavy hitter paranormal people coming in and investigating your house.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, that's so Interesting. So my last question, because I wanted to save it for last, was in NESPR, and when they came to your house to help y'all, can you share with us what they did for
Sure,
you and your family?
most definitely. In July of 2020, my wife and I were sitting in the backyard, and we were at our breaking point.
Mm,
We couldn't deal with the fighting, the negative energy, the shadows, the whispers, just everything that could go wrong, and we were done. And remember having Dan Rivera on our radio show, Horsefly Chronicles Radio, like 6 months prior. So she reached out to him. For those that you don't know, NESPR is the ones who um, tailed off of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were part of
with
the
Chinese
Conjuring,
Vera.
Amityville
Yeah.
Horror, and Dan Rivera is the one who built the case for Annabelle.
Hmm.
And he got into the whole aspect of helping people. Him and Jimmy Bettino and Eric Vitale from one of the TV shows, and they came down, and that was about a month later. Really nice people, very intelligent, and these are the people, right? These are the biggest names out there. I mean, this is the guy who's got
Right.
Annabelle. These are the biggest people. If they don't, and I wanted to see, what are we dealing with once again? Is it just a ghost? Is it, someone who has crossed over and came back, or is it something that is malevolent?
Right.
So in the early part of a Saturday, they were interviewing me, and as they were interviewing me alone, they're recording it. And Dan goes, I think I know what's going on here, but we're going to be back later on this evening before I say anything. So they came back in the evening and they started to do an investigation in the basement. And here's where the ice broke. They took a digital recorder, just a digital recorder, and they go, Phil, we want you to do something. From the questions we asked you earlier in the day, we need you to ask something. We want you to ask this. Very simple. Sarah, is it really you in our home? So I asked Sarah, is it really you in our home? So they played it back, and you hear a male demonic voice. I'm not going to curse on the air, but it said, in essence,
F.
F you.
Mhm.
And we all got chills on that playback because here's what I felt mentally deceived, tricked for many, many of years, lied, betrayed, and played.
Yeah.
And we go upstairs to the living room. We're sitting there, and Dan takes out these prayers. And he's reading just a couple of these prayers. And all of a sudden, every light, kitchen, living room, dining room goes so bright, you almost had to dim your eyes. And then it was gone. Over. And I felt like it's over. We won. Couple days after that, my wife and I reached out to them. Thank you very much. We believe it's over. I went to Hobby Lobby and I'm buying crosses and the Mother Mary statue and putting up all these religious things. And for a long time, the house felt beautiful, peaceful. It's over. There's nothing here. There's not a cast. There's not a blink of a bulb. There's nothing. It's over. We're good. I've had crosses that I couldn't put crosses in certain areas. Somehow they would fall down. Now they're fine.
Mhm.
That's the good news. I'll leave it to if you have any more questions.
Well, I guess my next question would be is, did what they do stick?
They had great intentions. They caught what Dan believed was out of his mouth a demon. And he's not going to call a demon unless he actually can back it up. And he backed it up.
Right.
That was 2020.
Mm-hmm.
In October 2021, we started having paranormal activity again. I contacted True Ghost Stories to come down to the home. And I was hoping that they would say nothing's here, Phil. This is part of your mind. While they didn't capture anything malevolent, they did capture things that were mind-blowing, and I was right there to witness it. One of them would be on a walkie-talkie communicating with another person in the basement from the garage, but something else was talking to them and it wasn't them. And it knew things that I won't share. The smell came through. He knew things. And in December of 2021, Uni Research Paranormal Puzzle was here, and a great team. Again, I was hoping, I wanted to fill evidence again. And they ironically picked up things that shouldn't have been picked up in his home. So here's the good thing. Sarah's never been around again since NESPR, to my belief, because Sarah had a presence and an image and a way you felt like you knew it was Sarah.
Yeah.
Not since NESPR. She hasn't been around. I believe that when they found out what she really was, that was over.
Right.
But these other things, I believe, are part of this Iroquois Indians. I stick with that because it's that male coming through that's dominant. And it's as if he claims the land. And so those things are back. And, we try not to pay too much attention to it. Being in the basement right now by myself it's kind of bravery to me. I just want to show. I'm going to turn this camera because when I talk about those snaky things on the back wall, so this would be the wall that these misty things came through that were caught by paranormal teams. Nothing's here now, see nothing, feel nothing, so that's all good. But that's where they would come from. It starts from there. I kind of thought maybe someone was buried in the ground years ago over there.
Oh, that would be yeah. But you the same this when you had the psychic who was reading, she was in another country. Didn't she ask if you found things in your backyard?
Well, we had put up a pool in 2011. And there was a bone found. It was a huge bone. I don't know what kind of bone it was, whether it was an animal or I really don't know. But when they were using the backhoe, they pulled up a bone. And I threw it up because I just think maybe it's just an animal or something. And in 2012, I remember a huge pine tree coming down and crushing the pool as if the pool shouldn't have been put up in the first place. Crushed my deck, my pool. Huge pine tree. And thankfully, no one was in that pool. Thankfully. So it could be also that something was stirred up when that backhoe was here, putting that pool in, that triggered things off too. That there's so many things that I think we were dealing with. We're not just dealing with one thing. So, I believe it's elementals. It's the Iroquois. It was Sarah, the attachment. There was so many different layers of things. That's why so many different energies were felt in the home. We had Christopher Moon here, Denise Garcia, very intelligent, well-spoken people, and they travel to investigate locations. And one of their people they brought down was in the portal, that room in the basement, and she got very mean very quick. We had to get her out of there because she would beat all of us up. It kind of puts you in this rage of you want to fight everybody immediately, like you want to take everybody down. So we walk on delicate waters and we tread lightly, and we try not to give too much thought, because thought can manifest something that didn't exist in the first place.
Mhm.
Like that horsefly from the beginning of the story,
Yep.
how it affected so many different people. So
Yep.
we have to be careful with our thoughts.
Yes. Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, I could not. I mean, for a short period of time, I dealt with. I nicknamed him the angry man, but I couldn't imagine that you guys have been together, fighting through all this entire time. I mean, that just speaks volumes of the strength of your marriage and your relationship. And I mean, that story is just absolutely amazing.
We're the third family to live in the home. The first family lasted 7 years. The second family that we bought the home from, 7 years. We're 11 years. And I
Yeah.
say to myself, interesting, the first, second is 7 years each. And they pulled out of here. Um, we're the third family. And like I said, other families around the neighborhood don't last that long. Um, it's as if the land doesn't want you here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've been told through these recordings, get off my property by these things.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's me and my family living here, and it's difficult, I will say that it is not easy mentally for the children.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not children no more, but growing up like this in this home, and it's hard to pull out of, because it can either get you financially, mentally, or physically. There are times we were leaving, we were done. We were going to walk away from
Mm-hmm.
the home, and financially, the car breaks down, the hot water tank goes, the washing machine goes, the refrigerator
Yeah.
goes, the pipe breaks, there's a water leak, and the roof needs. It knows how to affect
Yep.
you.
Yep.
It can empty your pockets,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
done that a couple times when we really try an escape plan. Um, I remember speaking to Bill Bean about this house. Very great guy. You know, some of
Mm-hmm.
these things can be removed, and some of them, I think that they're part of the land, and you're not going to get rid of them.
Mm-mm.
I believe personally in my heart, once we're out of here and we're far away from this property, I think that life will be good again.
Yeah.
Up until the time that's able to happen with, with our family, we live through it on delicate waters, and we tread lightly. And I teach people. That's what we do. We interview people around the world on our show and talk to people like you do, and we help each other gaining
Yes.
quality information. Look, if it ain't real, I'm not going to say it. If it ain't factual, I'm not going to say it. And I don't know a lot of stuff. I don't. In fact, a lot of people that come here, it's just so much to know that we don't know. The
Right.
one thing I do know is this, that Dan Rivera said this, and this is true, that the thoughts can manifest things that don't exist in the first place. And that kind of led me back to the horsefly. Because if you don't
Absolutely.
talk about the horsefly and you don't visualize the horsefly, there's no horsefly.
Right. That's that is very interesting. Well, I mean, like yourself, I'm very picky and choosy who I interview, because I want it to be, where at least somebody can walk away with something, um, and at least try and walk away with something as positive as possible. We've got enough drama going on
Of
in this
course.
world, and
Yes.
you know and people are already dealing with, you know situations that are out of their hands. And so I always, you know, take the chance when I can, like with Keith Linder and telling his story. Um, that means to me more than anything, um, because I don't think people really, really understand the turmoil and the hell the families go through. Because I will never ask if your children were affected, because we already know that answer and there's no need to talk about it. But it's hard, it's hard as a parent, to, you know, protect your children the best you can. It's hard as an individual, it's hard as a spouse, and, you know, it's nice to see that this hasn't torn y'all apart. It sounds like to me it's made y'all stronger.
Yeah, in a sense, you have to learn to mentally fight back and stick together. It's not easy by
No.
any means, and there's never a day that goes by here where something doesn't happen. I'm going to be very clear on that.
Hmm.
Um, but we play happy music, like I like the '80s music, and
Hmm.
we pick up our vibration through things like movies and
Yeah.
shows that we like to watch that put positive thoughts within our mind and our energy around us. And
Yes.
by doing that, we're not, like the priest said to me, he says, well, don't feed into the null and void that you can't see. Um, Feed in and give energy towards the good things.
Hmm.
Don't give it that opening where
Right.
silence can become the deafness of evil within one's life.
Hmm.
So we try, I keep saying trend lightly because I want the world to know that this stuff is real.
Absolutely.
Paranormal phenomenon does exist, but it also means that loved ones who've crossed over, friends, relatives, cousins, and things to that nature, there is a communication I've learned as well that through dreams and
Hmm.
um, mental telepathy and deep meditation, there's a possibility of communicating with those that we do love and miss that have
Hmm.
passed on. So, as much negative forces like are in the world and what's going on today in the world in an unfortunate time, I always tell people that there's always a good side. The
Yes.
Horsefly Chronicles is about good and evil. It's about a man's life who struggled because he was pulled into darkness and then trying to go into the light and pulled into the darkness, and
Hmm.
something's always been following him and he needed that proof. And now I hold the torch knowing that I know the right way, the love, the life.
Yep.
I'm a father,
Yeah.
I'm a grandfather, and I have a good feeling. And you need a vision.
Hmm.
And sometimes that mental vision will get you through. And I know that part of my mental vision would be one day that we're not here anymore.
Right.
We've moved far away
Right.
and things will change. But up until that point, I will continue to teach the world about this activity.
Well, I think the other thing too, um, and I think you'll agree with me on this, is you have a partner that says, I believe what you're experiencing. And you are telling her you believe what she's experiencing. Once a partnership between two people, once that one person is like, okay, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. That's where you see the fractures and the breaks and the distrust. I know for myself, my husband, even though he is a hardcore skeptic, he doesn't believe in these things, but he believes in me. And he's never once said, "You're crazy. This you're not seeing this. You're not hearing this. You're not witnessing this." He's never once denied that. He has always been supportive, and I find that's the same in your relationship. That's that you get that acknowledgement of, yes, I believe you, and we're here together.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely enjoyed hearing about your experiences, and I think we've achieved the mission of telling people, you know, there is darkness, there's light, there's goodness, there's nasty evilness, and you know, we can survive it. We can fight it, um, but we have to learn to respect it as well. And I have absolutely, truly enjoyed having these conversations with you. Um, it's much different than Keith Linder. Um, not that his story, but you know what you went through. It just is absolutely amazing, and um, I admire you and your family and the strength and the bond that y'all have. I know it's not easy at all, so it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you, sharing your story, and you know maybe in the future we'll get to talk again, and it'll be and you and your family in a better and safer you know surrounding. But I truly appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much for having me on. You have a great show, and I'm glad that I got the message out. And the end result is love, life, and trust
Hmm.
um, towards your fellow man, towards others, and keep all positive thoughts and feelings with you. And if you're a paranormal investigator, it's good to search and explore the unknown. Just do it in a way where you don't put too much intention into it. Just be careful with that.
Yeah.
Um, do your due diligence, be careful. And yes, we will maybe one day when I live far away from here, we'll do a sequel. But thank you so much.
Thank you. And Selena wanted to say thank you for sharing your story with us and much luck. So
Thank you. And to
I
her as well.
I appreciate everything. You've been such a wonderful guest. And let's hope this weekend is a beautiful weekend for you.
Thank you so much for having me on. Everyone have a great night. Be safe and do good for your fellow man. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. This was a very deep um, conversation, but I think it's a conversation nonetheless that needed to, you know, be heard. And I do admire him. And you know what? It's okay. You can rewatch it, Zabra. um, you'll find the beginning very interesting. Um, but I just want to say thank you so much, everyone. Um, it is a pleasure having y'all in the chat and look at it, y'all goofing off and having a good time. And that's the whole point of this is um, even though things are dark and heavy, you got to laugh a little bit. So thank you. And I wish all of, oh, wait. Oh, wait.
Hold
Oh,
on.
wait. Don't
Hold on.
go.
Yeah. You tell him.
I know. I almost.
Okay.
In 2 weeks, 2 weeks, I have a very special, very cool um, gentleman, Winter Legs, Winter Lake. Um, he is a Luciferian Satanist, and he is going to be joining me, and we are going to learn all kinds of very interesting things because I am a firm believer in you need light workers and you have to have dark workers. um, there's just some things that people can only go so far with, and then you need people like Winter that can come in and help. So you really don't want to miss this because there's not that many people out there that are willing to go out on the limb and talk about their religion, being a Satanist and a Luciferian. And I am super, super excited because our conversation um, was absolutely awesome. So you definitely don't want to miss this one at all. It's going to be fun. It's going to be very interesting and eye opening. So I hope to see you all then. Um, and thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Y'all are so special.